people decorate their bodies with stories. Others never do. And that silence is louder than you think. Because people who never get tattoos didn't just decide not to. They made a psychological choice most people never question. A choice rooted in control, identity, and an unusual relationship with permanence. If you've never felt the urge to mark your skin, this isn't about taste or tradition. It's about how your mind treats ownership. Your body, to you, isn't a canvas. It's a boundary, something complete, untouched, and deliberately closed. You don't feel the need to prove who you are on the outside because your sense of self already feels sealed on the inside. And that quiet confidence hides something deeper, something most people only realize when it's too late. Because refusing to change your body forever isn't about fear of pain. It's about how seriously you take the idea of forever. People who never get tattoos tend to experience control differently, not in a loud, dominant way, but in a precise, internal way. Their identity doesn't feel flexible or experimental. It feels owned, finished. When something is permanent, they want it to mean something permanent inside them first. They don't rush self-expression because expression without full alignment feels invasive. For them, the body isn't a place to test ideas. It's a place to protect clarity. This mindset often comes from an early need to stay composed, to stay intact, to not let emotions leak outward. So instead of carving meaning into skin, they store it privately, quietly. And over time, this creates a strong internal identity that doesn't rely on symbols to exist. But there's a cost to this kind of control, because when everything meaningful stays inside, nothing on the outside ever tells the full story. People who never get tattoos are unusually aware of time. Not the clock, but the future version of themselves. They don't just ask, "Do I like this now?" They ask, "Will I still recognize myself through this?" Their mind naturally simulates change, growth, regret, evolution. And because they expect to become different people, permanence feels risky, not painful, risky. A tattoo freezes a moment, a belief, a feeling, and they are deeply uncomfortable with being permanently represented by something they might later outgrow. So instead of preserving memories on skin, they let them live and die inside. This doesn't mean they value experiences less. It means they value movement more. But here's the subtle tension. When you refuse to anchor moments physically, you also lose a way to honor who you once were, and some parts of the past start to fade, not because they weren't meaningful, but because they were never allowed to stay. Underneath this pattern is an emotional habit most people miss. People who never get tattoos often learned very early to keep their inner world contained. Not hidden exactly, contained. They discovered that showing too much, committing too much, or locking feelings into visible form could backfire. So they became selective with exposure, careful with permanence. Their skin became the final line of defense. This doesn't mean they avoid intimacy or depth. It means they ration it. They prefer meanings that can be revised, emotions that can evolve, identities that can quietly shift without explanation. A tattoo asks you to explain yourself forever, and they don't like being questioned by their own past. But this restraint creates a quiet emotional distance. Others may feel close to them, yet never fully read them, because nothing on the surface gives them away. This choice doesn't exist in isolation. It lives inside a social world that constantly demands visible signals. Tattoos have become a language, belonging, rebellion, history, and people who never get them are constantly misread. Others project meanings onto their blank skin. Too serious, too cautious, too traditional. But what's really happening is resistance to external definition. They don't want society to label them faster than they can evolve. They watch how symbols turn into assumptions, how identity becomes shorthand, how complexity gets flattened into ink. So they stay unmarked, not because they reject others' choices, but because they refuse to be summarized. And this creates an invisible tension, because in a world that rewards visible stories, staying unreadable makes you feel both powerful and strangely alone. Here's the twist most people never consider. People who never get tattoos aren't avoiding permanence, they're already living with it. Their commitments happen internally, not visually. When they decide who they are, it's not temporary, it's heavy, it's serious. So the idea of adding another permanent layer feels unnecessary, even threatening. Because if something is carved into their identity, it doesn't need proof. Ink, for them, would feel like doubting their own convictions. But this also means change is harder. When they shift, they do it slowly, quietly, and often alone. No visible milestones, no external markers, just internal rewiring. And that's exhausting, because without symbols to mark growth, they carry every version of themselves at once. Nothing gets left behind. Everything stays remembered. And this is the part that lingers. People who never get tattoos often believe they're staying open, flexible, free. But in reality, they're holding themselves to an invisible standard of consistency. They don't allow past versions of themselves to exist separately. Every change has to be justified, integrated, explained internally. Nothing is allowed to simply end. While others close chapters with ink, with symbols, with visible transitions, they carry every chapter inside, untitled, unfinished. So the blank skin isn't emptiness, it's weight, a lifetime of identities coexisting without release. And once you see that, you realize something unsettling. Some people mark their bodies to remember who they were. Others avoid marks because they never let themselves forget. If you enjoyed our video, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thank you.